And we're continuing in our series of centenary interviews. We're joined today by two members of our staff, Declan Donohue and Peter Russo, who are both students at the college. So we welcome you, gentlemen, and thank you for taking part. Okay, Peter, we might start with you, if you'd like to tell us a bit about when you came to the school as a student.
Well, even though I don't look it, I was here in the 70s, and we started off when we were in Year 5 in the buildings where the basketball courts are currently. And it was a time when things like the cane and that sort of thing were still in the school. Coming from a small primary school, it's quite a big school, I remember, to enter into, and a lot of fear sort of thing was, in entering this big building and big playground and with 1,000 students.
So what were your class sizes like? Do you remember?
We had about 30 from what I remember.
Okay.
And I think there were about four or five Year 5 classes.
Okay. So in Year 6 you had Karen Rice, I believe? Yeah.
Year 6, Karen Rice, probably a very formative year for my mind, actually. They say that teachers can influence you. She was certainly one of those teachers that did that. I can relay a specific incident where we all used to go down to the snow every year for a snowy trip. That year was no different. Everyone really looked forward to it. And unfortunately, my grandfather, passed away probably on the Wednesday, I think it was, and we were due to leave the following Monday. I remember telling Miss Rice that I couldn't come to the camp, and that was that. But also, on the Saturday night, there was a knock at the door at my parents' place, and we're all there, all the Italians mourning, saying the rosary, and there was Karen Rice at the front door, and she had organised for me to be picked up after the funeral, driven to the airport, flown to Canberra, where I would then meet up with the bus and we would continue on with the excursion. And she came over that night to ask my parents' permission to see if that was okay and everything like that. And that was done. That's just one little thing. Showed how connected it really was in that Year 6 group. And you really got that sense of belonging.
Yeah. Because you stayed here till Year 12 and finished HSC?
Went right up through to Year 12. Was here when the first group of girls came through the school.
Okay, that would have been a big change.
My schooling a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
but in the same again, I think it was one of the best things that happened to this place in the time that I was here. It really brought in a different perspective.
Yeah, they were good years.
It was great years. Okay. They were great years.
Yeah. So, Mr. Donohue, you're a more recent arrival to the school.
Yeah.
Tell us about what it was like when you started here.
I arrived here in 1997 in Year 7 and stayed till Year 12, 2002. Hasn't changed a lot since I've left, sort of a recent school leaver. But I remember coming to Year 7, I had two older brothers that were already here, and I remember actually really looking forward to coming to Year 7 and particularly getting involved in sport a lot. My primary school wasn't heavily involved in sport, but that was one of the things that I really looked forward to. And my first teacher on the first day of school, Year 7, 36 homeroom, was one of the demountables, was Mr. Michael Filtz.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a shock, and I was thinking that, all teachers like Mr. Filtz. But I remember the first day I said something about, is this our homeroom for the whole year, being a demountable? And he said, yeah, this is it, but we should go and complain to someone about it.
Yeah.
And it was my first day at school, and I said, whatever you want me to do, sir. So he said, wrote down a name, Mrs. Helen Smith. She's the REC. She's a go-getter.
Yeah.
So, and that was my first interview with Helen Smith. So he sent me to her office, and I was a little kid, knocked on the door and just said, Mrs. Smith, my name's Declan. Mr. Fields sent me here to tell you we need a new room. And she said, what do you mean you need a new room? He said, all the kids are complaining about how hot it is there early in January. She said, well, you can tell Mr. Fields he's there all year. That's bad luck. And I didn't really know what was going on, but she came back with me, storming back, and they had a little running feud going on. But
a great introduction.
Yeah, it was certainly an introduction, and Mr. Fields was a great for me in that year group, and was a good opening to a year.
Yeah, so
year seven. It's not something I expected.
So did you get a new room?
No, we didn't. We were there for another year or two, I think, so didn't really work.
No. So any other memories as you sort of progress towards like the senior years?
I remember just playing a lot of sport. I wasn't interested a lot in the study side of things initially, but I worked out pretty quickly that that's a major part of schooling. But playing a lot of sport, I remember we had a great year of individuals that worked hard and would try out for anything, not just sport, but rock Stedford, drum productions, music. We had a really good year group. We did well at sport, but I remember Greg King and I were sport guys that wanted to do the rock Stedford, and they made allowances for us to be in the rock Stedford, good way to meet girls and what have you, and we both had 2 left foot, so anything we did, Connie Frenner at that stage said, "Oh, come and try this dance move." We tried it. Okay, you can't do that. Come and try this where you run on and do a move. We flag bearers I think we went on for about a minute and then came off, but that was about it.
Yep. Hang on. So you both leave and then come back eventually as teaching staff? Like,
it's a surreal sort of experience. It's definitely an awkward feeling coming into the staff room when you're a student. I feel that's out of bounds, and coming back and meeting teachers like yourself and calling them by their Christian name, it's just a weird sort of feeling. But it did sort of, I know it's a cliche, but it feels like home when you come back. There's that sort of feeling that you're welcomed, and there's a lot of tradition here, and it's easy to pick up from that tradition, and there's just a feeling around the place that's good to come back to and try to pass on the knowledge that you've been passed down to from older sort of teachers.
Okay, Peter, how was it for you?
I'll be honest, I didn't come 20 years later, I sort of came back to the school. I didn't necessarily have great involvement in the school in any of that 20 years previous to that. But I do remember having to pick a school to go to do some casual work at. And for me, it was too obvious. Kogarah for me felt like somewhere where I could just walk in and be relaxed. And not only that, felt like I knew the place, knew what it was about, knew the culture. And to be honest with you, it was a little bit different from when my day, but of course that's 25.
In what way do you think it was different?
Well, I have to remember I was here with the brothers.
Yeah.
There were lots of changes with the girls coming in and the cane disappearing and all that. A lot happened here in those years. And of course, there was lots of changes in the buildings and all that sort of thing. And when I walked back in, I sort of wondered if the brothers would be around the corner. There was a little bit of that,
yeah.
you know, where are they?
Yeah.
The staff room was where the brothers used to live.
Yep.
That was out of bounds. So, you know, that was a bit new. And so there was a little bit of feeling of, oh yeah, this is a secret place or a sacred place, and now I'm having my lunch in it.
Yeah.
And so that was all a little bit strange. But overall, though, the feeling was I belong.
Great. So, just summing it up, if you had to sum up what you thought was the best thing about the place, what would you say?
Probably the mateships. And I agree, it would have been great to have girls at school while I was here, but the mates that you make over the 5-6 years or the 2 years from Penshurst, they honestly are lifelong. I still see a lot of the guys that I've finished with in 2002 and we meet up regularly. So the mates that you make and the discipline that's instilled in you for the rest of your life, I think.
Yeah, for me it was, again, I came to a whole big school and we're from a little primary school, and to me it was opened up the world to me. And there were cultures, there was everything from the fancy cars to the cheap cars, you know. There was all cultures, and even today, if I stand on the balcony and look out in the playground, I can see the whole world in the playground. That's, I think, probably one of the most endearing things about Kogarah. It accepts everyone, gives everyone a chance, and, you know, if you take it and use it, you'll do well. And that opportunity is there for everyone, and I think that's the best thing about the place.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you for taking part.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.